Hello folks, Todd Halleck here today, talking to you a little bit about estate planning and most particularly today about conservatorships. If you've been watching the news lately, you may have heard that word tossed around a little bit, conservatorship. Michael Orr, former NFL football player and whose story was made somewhat famous in the movie The Blind Side, has recently sued the Toohey family who took him in, alleging that they have defrauded him of money and found out that instead of adopting him like he believed they did, he was actually under conservatorship. If you remember back several months or years ago, Britney Spears was fighting with her family over a conservatorship that had been instituted in her case. So what is a conservatorship? Why would you need one? Why would someone get put under one? Well, a conservatorship is in many states, it's the process whereby the courts will get an individual in charge of the financial resources of a person who is not capable of managing those resources themselves. It could be because they're a minor, it could be because of some permanent disability situation, it could be as a result of some temporary situation, drug addiction, mental health issues. There might be any number of reasons why someone may need the court to intervene on their behalf and put someone in charge of their financial resources. And that's to be distinguished from a guardianship for a person, which is someone who's put in charge of a person's physical needs, getting them registered for school, taking them to the doctor, making healthcare decisions. So that's going to be the guardian, and the conservator is going to be the financial needs. Now, in some states, they actually call that a guardian of the person or a guardian of the estate. And the guardian of the estate would be akin to the conservator in states like Utah and Idaho and Arizona, where I practice law. So a conservatorship proceeding is really a court proceeding where somebody else is put in charge of the assets of another because that person is under some form of disability. It's maybe akin to a lifetime probate. A probate, of course, is when someone dies and owns assets in their personal name. A probate needs to be instituted with the courts so that that person's assets could be transferred to the beneficiaries of that person's estate. The conservatorship is also in the probate court system, but instead of transferring assets, it's the management of assets. Now, generally, those conservators are held to a pretty high standard. They are supposed to make regular financial reports to the court, and they're to keep meticulous financial records of their dealings, and they're always supposed to act in the best interest of the person who they are overseeing, whose affairs they are overseeing. And so really there should be a good safety net to protect those people, but unfortunately you do from time to time have conservators that mislead the court or aren't filing like they should, and maybe the court system is overwhelmed, and so things fly below the radar and don't get picked up. But really, your job as a conservator is to not only look out for the best interest of that person, but even to the detriment of your own personal self-interest, you should be looking out for that person's interest. We call that a fiduciary duty. And generally, the object is not to make that person's assets grow considerably, but it's to conserve them, to make sure that those assets are available. Now, why would someone need a conservatorship if, say, they have a power of attorney or they have a trust? If you think about the trust or the power of attorney, that's giving someone the ability to help you if you desire help, right? You make me the agent of your power of attorney, I can sign checks for you, or I can sign contracts for you. Or if you make me the trustee of your trust, I can manage those financial assets for you and enter into purchases and sales, and I can do all of those things. But what I can't do is stop you from doing things, right? If you want to take some action, just because I can help you doesn't mean I can stop you. In the conservatorship setting, I can actually prevent you or prevent others from doing things with you, and even unwind transactions because the court has deemed you to be incapacitated at some level. So that's really the difference. So someone may have a great estate plan, power of attorneys are in place like they need to be, trust is in place like it needs to be, will's in place like it needs to be, but they still need to invoke the court system into the mix because that person is acting outside of their best interest, and it's because of some disability that they're dealing with, that they're not able to make those decisions rationally and reasonably. We can make as many bad decisions as we want as long as we understand those bad decisions, but if something else is intervening and sort of preventing us from exercising reasonable judgment, that's really where you're going to start to see conservatorships be considered. For example, a situation that I've seen arise is as individuals get older, they start withdrawing large sums from their bank accounts. They're dealing with some level of dementia, and they're taking that money and going and just giving it away to people randomly, or they're susceptible to taking out loans against their home and giving the money away to people. Those are situations we want to protect people in, and even though I could help you do some of those things if it was wise, I can't necessarily stop you from doing it if I don't have the power of the court behind me. So that's why we go and get a conservatorship in place for an individual. It's always something you hope that you don't need, but you want to be able to use it if you do need it. We tend to encourage people to name the same people as their trustee, as their financial power of attorney, as their conservator, so that if we do get into that situation, we don't have competing individuals that have different agendas, but that we have common goals that we're trying to achieve. So that's a conservatorship. It's always really sad when you hear these stories where maybe it's been abused. I guess we'll see how Mr. Orr's situation plays out. It's unfortunate. It was a great movie, but it's why they always say based on a true story. They obviously sometimes take some license with those stories, and maybe they're not as fairy tale endings as we all would hope. But that's a conservatorship. We always hope we don't need them, but we need to plan for it just in case. As with most things with estate planning, it's you hope for the best, plan for the worst. I hope this has been helpful to you. Encourage you to get your estate plan in order as we start moving towards the end of the year. It can be a great objective to try to get that done before the end of the year. And you take care.